So let's get back home to Nigeria, where 10 days ago, the Ministry of Finance released the country's fourth quarter 2020 budget performance report. In summary, the 58-page report shows that Nigeria ran a fiscal deficit of 1.86 trillion naira for the full year 2020. That figure was a staggering 6.60 trillion naira. That's about 4.6% of the country's GDP, giving us some insight into other details in the report. An outlook on the current 2021 fiscal year is Tilewa Adebajo, the Chief Executive Officer at CFG Advisory and a regular economic contributor here on our Rice News channel. A good evening to you, sir.
Good evening, Bolson.
Thank you very much. Give me your takeaways from that report with the fourth quarter 2020 budget performance report, in particular the fiscal side, the fiscal deficit side.
Well, first of all, I think let me commend the Budget Office, Mr. Ben Akabweze, and the Minister of Finance for coming out with this report on a timely basis. As you know, this report is a statutory report. If you know the Fiscal Responsibility Act of 2007, it states that on a quarterly basis, the Budget Office and the Ministry of Finance have to submit a budget performance report to the Fiscal Responsibility Commission and also to the National Assembly, the presidency, and of course circulated to the general public. So I think it's important to commend them on this very detailed 68-page report, which shows the budget performance for last year. As you've said, the highlight of this budget is the fact that we have run a 6.6 trillion naira deficit, which is about 14% of our GDP. Unfortunately, only 2 trillion of this deficit has been financed with the domestic markets. And, we're still trying to analyze the rest to see how the balance of the 4 trillion has been financed in terms of deficit finance. But overall, it's a very detailed report and has a lot of information.
I'm looking at the figure right now. For fourth quarter, it was 4.3% of the GDP, 6.6 trillion full year. Preliminary estimate was 6.15 trillion. Would you attribute this deficit principally to COVID-19 pandemic impact? Do you think there are other underlying issues in the economy that ran up that deficit that huge?
Well, the COVID just exacerbated the situation, as a matter of fact. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, the Nigerian economy has been very fragile. And I think, as the Debt Management Office has already alluded, they have been financing ways and means. The budget deficit has been financed by ways and means since 2015. So this is not a new phenomenon. What happened is just that with the COVID-19 pandemic, which took the Nigerian economy into a recession, it exacerbated a lot of the problems. And of course, we had to do a new budget last year to be able to recognize the dire economic situation. And we find ourselves with a 6.6 trillion budget deficit. And that is where we are right now. So the economy really has not been performing at an optimal level to be able to generate the amount of revenues required to sustain the budget.
Yeah, we're breaking it down a little bit further and then show our viewers the non-oil revenue points in fourth quarter. What did that reveal about the inherent weakness in the domestic economy when you look at the non-oil, which comprises basically the key points, which is a company income tax, about 25.8%, value added down by 14% year on year, and signature bonus, even in the petroleum industry that accrue to the federal government, went down nearly 100%.
Yes, but interestingly enough, last year, 60% of the revenues actually came in from non-oil revenues. Only 40% came from oil revenues. So that in itself is a good sign that where oil is not really the key financier of our budgets. So in essence, I think we're making that sort of diversification shift, as we can see. But unfortunately, both the oil and non-oil revenue projections fell significantly short, which is really where the problem is. All the budget for the non-oil and the oil revenue, we did not meet our revenue targets last year. And that is why we've had this significant deficit.
Okay, so here we are today, Tilewa, at about half year 2021. Are you seeing signs of improvement in Nigeria's fiscal balance to the upside right now?
Well, the challenge in the Nigerian economy today has to do with the fiscal side of things, the fiscal deficit. The fiscal deficit, as you know, has become unsustainable because, as you know, in January, 90% of revenues went towards debt service. Now, with oil prices going at about $70 a barrel and the central bank now moving to a single window foreign exchange system, we hope to see some improvements in terms of the revenue profile and hopefully those increased revenues with oil prices might be able to cushion the effects of the fiscal deficit that we're suffering. But I think it's time for us to begin to take a look at more of structural reforms, because as you know, we're currently in stagflation, and we need supply side structural reforms on the fiscal side to be able to get things going. For instance, the Oronsai report, I believe that it should be reviewed. It should be updated and implemented. I think this will give us a good stead. As you know, also, the National Petroleum Corporation has said it's going to have challenges with funding the Federation account. The President's economic team has recommended the removal of subsidies, which is very critical to be able to jumpstart the economy. We welcome the concessioning of the airports. Privatization, I think, is very important. The transmission company needs to be privatized. And a lot of assets which are what we call bankable, the government should either concession or privatize to enable it free itself up and have revenues to be able to begin to return to a level of fiscal discipline and some level of fiscal responsibility. But at 85 to 90% of debt service with revenues right now is unsustainable.
Well, for all those very brilliant suggestions, how soon and how quickly do you think we should put them into action? We're 6 months already on the downside for the new year, which is post-2020 pandemic, full blast, as it were. We seem to have been blessed, in a manner of speaking, with very less COVID-19 footprints, infestations, and fatalities. So that leaves us with another the rest 6 months.
Yes, like I said, these are urgent issues which the president needs to address. I was very disappointed in the broadcasts of the president and the interviews he gave, that he did not speak to the economy. He did not speak to the issues or the underlying issues of the economy. And he did not really signal the economy to be able to give people an understanding of the direction of that economy to be able to restore fiscal discipline. Because as you know, monetary policy has reached its limits. The key way for us to jumpstart the Nigerian economy is through fiscal discipline and fiscal reforms, as I've mentioned. And that falls squarely with the finance minister and the budget office.
It's nice having you on the show tonight. Tilewa Adebajo, Chief Executive Officer at CFG Advisory here in Lagos. Enjoy the rest of your holiday evening.